everyone, I'm Linda Nickell, and welcome to the Texas Women Photographers Circle. This is our monthly meetup. Moderators Leslie Sessoms and Sue Pitts couldn't be here tonight, so Charlie Hickman and I are thrilled to have you join us for our very last meeting of the year. Every month, I invite a guest to share their photography and some of their favorite tips and techniques, and I ask them to try to inspire us to try something new and have us look at a subject a little differently. The schedule for upcoming presentations is on my website at lindanickell.com, as well as the links to previous sessions on YouTube. Tonight's guest is Tricia Zeigler. Trish is a native Texan that has an eye for the epic landscapes that is just as comfortable photographing those small and intimate scenes that she stumbles upon close to her home base in Central Texas to scenes outside the state lines. Trish is blessed with a great sense of humor, a curious mind, an adventurous spirit, and a passion for exploring. In tonight's presentation, The Wonder of Wandering, Trish will entice you to step outside of your comfort zone and give you some ideas of how you can find photo opportunities no matter where you venture. If you're on Instagram, look for her at Trish Z ATX. Trish, it's nice to have you here. Are you there?
I'm here. I'm here.
All right, before you get started, breathe, my friend. And I know you're good. You're good. Okay.
Yeah.
You're not going to hit leave the room and run away from me?
I don't think so.
Well,
I think I'll be good.
If you
a little nervous, but I'll get through it.
I'm nervous every time I get
40 minutes. I'm going to talk really fast.
No, take your time. And you know, I've known you for how many years? We met on Instagram, didn't we?
5, 6,
no.
2017.
Wow, time flies.
Yeah.
So I've had the opportunity to, go and shoot with you. I've had the opportunity to sit and have chips and salsa with you. You're one of those people that it's real fun. It's real fun for me to say, hey, what are you doing? Let's go. And you knew at some point I was going to come after you to do a presentation for us. And I was waiting for the big no, and I was very thrilled that you didn't do that. So with that, I'm going to give you the room to, is there anything you want to share about yourself that I might have missed in your intro?
No, other than, you talk about how other photographers have shared tips and techniques. I really don't have tips and techniques as far as photography.
Okay.
But
you're going to share your insights.
I shoot, and I just shoot what I love and things that catch my eye as I'm driving down the road. And it's just a lot of fun. I just have a lot of fun with all of it. Meet lots of people.
I think, tips and techniques it doesn't necessarily have to be technical. Yeah. It's about the way you look at something. It's about the way you put your car in reverse because something caught your eye. And to me, that's a tip because, I often shoot with people and I'm always kind of focused forward. And it's not uncommon for my friend Rob Doyle to say, you might want to turn around. And those are just those little things that I think you're going to share a few of those little things that you do that maybe people will put that in their camera bags next time they go out. So I count that as a tip and technique. So don't be concerned about that. But tell us some fun stories and show us some beautiful photos.
So I entitled this "A Wonder of Wandering" because for me, it's just I just find what to me are the most amazing things out there, and most of them are old, rundown barns, abandoned houses, and things like that. But I'm just drawn to them, and I just really enjoy just driving around and seeing what's out there. So a lot of people are interested in gear. I travel pretty light. I don't really have anything fancy. I shoot with the Nikon D750. I pretty much keep the 28 to 300 millimeter just on the camera because for landscape photography, that gives me the range I need for most anything that I'm going to be stopping and shooting on the side of the road. I have the Tamron 17 to 35, which gives me a little bit wider if I want to do a wider scene. And then I have a Tamron 150 to 600 for those not too often occasions that I go out with folks and shoot birds. And but I have used it for some of my landscape photography, but mainly it's the 28 to 300. I have a beast of a tripod, Manfrotto tripod that I've had since 2014. It's heavy as heck, but it is so sturdy. And I finally did get a new ball head for it, so it's a little easier to use. But I just can't get rid of it because it's so sturdy. And I just find that helpful when I'm out there on an even ground. I do have a three-legged thing, Corey, which is a little bit more lightweight travel tripod. And then I keep a 10-stop ND filter in my bag because I don't like having to mess around looking for which filter I need to use. This one it's easy. I can just put it on, and sometimes I just put it on when I start the day and have it at the lowest setting where it's really not filtering much. But it does what I need. And so that's pretty much what I travel around with. And so some people like to know exactly where you are, where the shooting area is. And so this is my truck and my mutt heads that are usually with me when I'm out driving around. And so the bulk of my photography is just out here where I live. I live in Elgin, which is in Bastrop County, and then of course Bastrop, and I love to go out to Bastrop State Park a lot. Eastern Travis County is where the New Sweden Church is in the New Sweden area, that you're going to see a lot of pictures, maybe too many pictures of New Sweden tonight, but I love it. And then the Pflugerville area. And then Eastern Williamson County. Eastern Williamson County is just a treasure trove of photo opportunities. There are so many back roads, so many little small quaint towns all through there. And so I spend a lot of time, and a lot of my photography is from Williamson County. And so this is a quote that I love. I found it a few years ago. Realize deeply that the present moment is all you ever have. And that's really what we're doing when we're out shooting, is we are capturing that moment. We are capturing, something that just stood out to us, and that it stood out enough that for me that I want to stop the truck and get out and go up to a fence line and shoot it. And so we get these moments in time, but we get to keep them so we can look back on them and remember the moment. And so that's the one thing that I think I do love about photography, because I'll look at an image, I'll remember who I'm with, what the temperature was, why I pulled over. And so I really kind of resonate with this quote. So don't judge. This is a lousy cell phone picture, but this is where it all started for me when I moved out to Elgin. I grew up in Austin. And so I was a city girl. And I moved out to Elgin about 7 years ago, and I had to find a different route to get to my office because the traffic on 290 was ridiculous. And so the route that GPS took me through was through New Sweden. This is the New Sweden Church in the background there. And so it just really changed things for me, because the church itself is just beautiful. But the area around it is farmland and just wide open spaces. And in the mornings when I was driving to work, there would be these beautiful sunrises. And so I would pull over a lot of times and be late to work because I'm there with my cell phone shooting sunrises, posting them to Facebook. But they were beautiful. And so this is one of probably the first ones that I took with my phone on the way to work. And then I'd see scenes like this driving home. This is just what it looks like out the car window. Again, this is New Sweden. It's a cotton crop at the end of the season. You can see the church way off there in the distance. And so again, just these wide open spaces with unobstructed views is what really got me intrigued with the area. And then we'd run into some locals. This is always fun. This gentleman and I think probably a relative of his are often riding their horses out around New Sweden. And Chris, who's in the room, Chris, I think you were with me the night that
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
yeah, that they came up, and I thought it was just so cute that he had his little son riding with him, and so he wasn't bilingual, but we managed to communicate, and I asked him if I could take their picture, and he just smiled and looked so proud to be getting his picture taken, and I did send him a copy of this, but. This is the kind of traffic jams we have out here in the back roads, and I just love it. So here's New Sweden Church again, and so this church, I mean, I was going by it, like I said, every morning, every evening. So I saw it in all kinds of light, all different kinds of clouds, and so I just became really enamored with this church because it's just so beautiful. And then just the setting that it's sitting in is beautiful. This is an image this is when I started exploring the rest of the area around New Sweden. This is the Manda schoolhouse. It's built like I think in 1915. So pretty old. It's actually just maybe about 2 miles down the road from the New Sweden Church. Again, just has this wonderful, wide open spaces. And so this was a night when there were these amazing clouds. And so when I see clouds, I'll grab my camera and get out and see what I can shoot with a pretty sky like that. And so I just loved the golden hour light that kind of lit up the side of this house. You can see that it's kind of in disrepair, paint peeling off of it, had a lot of rotted wood. And this is pretty much what it looked like when I first moved out here. And so I really thought that it may not be long for this world, but I'll show you some pictures down. Then this is actually just maybe about a mile down the road. I had found these silos when I was driving around one day. And so when I saw that sky, I thought I need to go run down the road and see what the silos look like. And this was just so beautiful. It was getting closer to sunset, and so there was more color in the clouds than at the schoolhouse. But what I love about this image too is that you can really see how dark the dirt is here. This area out here is referred to as the Blackland Prairie. And it's because the dirt, the farmland, is black. It's not brown. I mean, it's truly black, and you can really see that in this image. So this is a little schoolhouse again with huge cotton crop next to it. And I love this image so much because knowing that this house was built in 1915 and it's still, there's no homes around it. There's a house kind of back off this direction, but you really can't see it. But when I look at this, I just think to myself, this is what it looked like in 1915. It still looks this way. And I just love how you can just get these amazing views of clouds at sunset or during the day sometimes. And this was an evening when a storm was coming in from the east. And I just happened upon this and saw the great cloud formations and just all the colors in the sky. And so I just had to stop and take the picture. So this next series of pictures is going to be from a day that I was out chasing clouds. I absolutely love a cloud-filled sky. On this day, I was out running errands around Elgin, and every time I came out of a store, I saw this sky. And so I just finally said, no more errands. I got to go get my camera. And so I decided to head out and take pictures of my favorite places out here. And of course, this was a first stop for me. And then the schoolhouse again. But what I was thrilled to see this time at the schoolhouse is that it had been painted. And so I did some research because I've always wondered who maintains this place. And there's actually a community group called Friends of Manda School. And about a year ago, they were awarded a $25,000 grant to do repairs and painting on the schoolhouse. And they even painted Manda up above the entryway. And so they're in the process of renovating it, and they still use it for their community meetings, but they're going to open it a little bit more to the public for wedding venues and things like that. But I was really happy to see that it is being taken care of and that it's been restored, because the shape it was in when I first started photographing it, it just looked like it wasn't going to make it much longer. And then this is Sealy's store. So funny story about this place. I drove past this building dozens of times over the 7 years. It was always during the day. It would be when I was going to certain areas of Pflugerville, I'd go through the back roads and I'd pass by this place. Never saw a car. Never saw a person. So I just thought it was another abandoned building, that you see, abandoned house, old store that you see along the back roads. And so I finally went out and got this picture of it. But the funny story is that one afternoon on a Saturday, I was driving back from Pflugerville, and I came around the corner, and there were trucks and cars parked all over the place, even across the street in the grassy area. I mean, just covered with cars. And I thought, what the heck is going on? And I drove past and I thought, no, I got to go in and see what's happening here. I thought this place was abandoned. And so I walk in, and I kind of I didn't know what to expect. And I stopped because I was surprised when I walked in. And there were people sitting at tables eating barbecue. There was an old time bar with people sitting at the bar having a beer, and there was all this old memorabilia all over the walls. And I just stopped, and everybody was looking at me. And I just said, "Oh, is this a restaurant?" And they said, "Yeah, come in and sit down and eat." And so I did. I stayed and had a plate of barbecue. It was very good. I made friends with a couple that was sitting at the bar. And about, I don't know, an hour after I was in there, a cyclist came walking in, a female cyclist, and she stopped dead in her tracks, and kind of, I guess, the same look I had on my face when I walked in. But she didn't about face and immediately left. And so she decided that she wasn't going to enjoy the ambiance of the place. But anyway, I just loved finding out that it's actually a thriving business. And so I was happy to go back out on this cloud-filled day and get a really nice picture of it. And I actually took a copy of this to one of the owners. And then this barn I've seen pictures of it. I think Linda has taken a couple of shots of this, and I always wondered where it was. Well, it's just right around the corner from Sealy's store where I was at. And so I was really happy to find this. And what I love about it, I wish Val was in the room, is the old rusty truck, the old rusted gas pump, and there's a tractor here. And I like rusty things, and if I see something like this, I am going to stop and shoot an image of it. And this is a windmill that is outside of. This is one of my favorite spots too. I've shot it in several different types of scenes, and I have pictures of it in a bit. But this day, when I look at this image, I just remember how quiet it was on that road. There were no cars out that day when I was shooting all of these images. And this is a little side road that juts off of Highway 95. And it was just so peaceful and quiet. There was a bit of a breeze. And when I look at this, I can still remember how the breeze sounded rustling through these dried corn stalks. And then it was breezy enough that the windmill was actually turning a little bit and creaking. And just the sound of those two things, and no traffic sounds, no people sounds, was just wonderful to experience. Because, you know, I don't know about y'all, but I just get tired of the noise of the city. And it's just so nice to get out here. And it's one of the reasons I do get out, because it's so quiet. So it's just wonderful. So I'll always remember how that felt. And then this is another one of my favorite barns. And I'd never gotten an image with clouds in the sky. So this was one of my stops that day as well. And then I like to take some of my favorite spots in different seasons. And so back in, what was it, January of 21, I think? We had that wonderful snowfall that actually stuck to the ground for several days. You can actually see in this image that the snow was coming down. I actually, without thinking, because I peeked outside, we got a snow day from work, so we didn't have to work that day. And when I peeked out and saw what was happening, I grabbed my camera and jumped in the car. I was in my pajamas. I drove around all day in my pajamas, but who was going to see me? There wasn't any other fool out on the road driving around. So I kind of had the back roads to myself, and it was really fun to see what the area looked like in snow. So this is another image of that same windmill. And so you can see how different it looks in this scene, because there's no corn or anything around it. It was golden hour light again. Just, I love how it lit up the windmill. And there's this little tiny barn in the background that's lit up as well. And if you look really closely over to the left, you can see that there's hay bales back here in the backfield. And I'm moving my mouse as if y'all could see it, because I could move it over here. But here's the hay bales, and then there's a little farmhouse over there too. And so I just love this scene. And then I also came out on snow day, and I got this image. And I think I love this image more than any of the others I've shot. It's so simple. The windmill just really pops, and just the color of the concrete cistern and the rust on the windmill stands out. And then you can, the little barn in the background stands out in it too. So this was really fun to shoot. And then this was on one of my days when I decided to take a different route home. I do that sometimes. I think I need to find some new roads to go down, and so I'll just go home a different way. And so I'm always happy to find a new barn, and I was lucky on this evening, but again, it was the golden hour where it kind of lit up the scene, because it was pretty colorless scene without that. But I really enjoyed finding this one. And then this was the sunset that was going on behind me that was lighting up that barn. And I thought the cloud formations on this were really good. This is a plant that has fascinated me since I moved out here, because this plant pops up like at the end of August when it's the hottest and it's the driest. I mean, some of you may be familiar with it. I'd never seen it before moving out here, but it just covers the pastures and all the land out here. It's called prairie snow. And so I can understand why it's called that, because when you come up on a big, huge field of it, it does look like a blanket of white, just like cotton is called Texas snow in this area. But this is called prairie snow. And it's actually in the poinsettia family. Found that kind of interesting because I can sort of see that, but well, it was interesting to me. And then this is another image I took right after I shot that one. And what I loved about this is just the different layers of color. And this was, end of summer. Most everything was dead, crispy. But I don't know what these mounding plants are. Mika or somebody may know what these are. But they were just lush and green, and they get these tiny little yellow flowers all over them. And then there were just layers of different kinds of plants, and you can see that prairie snow in the background. And so I just liked all the color variation of this. And so I'll pull over for things like that. And so this is a day when I went out with a purpose to visit small town of Bartlett, which is not too far. I think it's about, it's probably 30 minutes from where I live in Elgin. But I hadn't been to Bartlett in a while, and I'd never really taken shots of the downtown area with the interesting old buildings. And so when I pulled, when I first got there, I saw that they had this mural edition. I'd never seen the mural before, but you can see what's in it is cattle and cotton and the trains. And that's what this area is really known for. Cotton is grown, it's cotton and corn are the predominant crops out here. Lots of cattle being raised, and then there was a rail system that's actually still being used that runs through here. So lots of the little towns have interesting depot buildings still in them. And so again, there was a rusty truck when I started down the road, and so I pulled over to shoot the rusty truck, and I probably spent 30, 45 minutes getting it from every angle and every detail. And this is one image that I love of just the front grill of this. And again, I wish Val was here because she would enjoy this image. And so this is one side of the main street in Bartlett. And what I love about these little towns is the architecture and how the buildings, like this section. Again, I'm pointing with this. This section is all red brick buildings, but each section has its own individual rooftop to it. And then the next block has a little more simple buildings, but they're all brick as well. And so I just really enjoyed this scene, especially with the clouds in the sky. And then this was an image that I'd been wanting to get in one of the small towns out here, is this shot just down Main Street. And I like to call these towns the one blinking light town because they don't have any traffic lights. There is literally at the end here where you see the buildings, ending, that's Highway 95, and there's just a blinking light there. And so anybody that's wanting to go across just has to wait for the highway traffic to get by. But what I love about Bartlett, and there's another little town, Granger, not too far from Bartlett, is that they have these original brick streets. These were laid, I think, around 1916, and they're the original bricks that were laid by the bricklayers when they put this brick road in. Most of it's been covered up with asphalt, as you can see, but when you walk down the streets here, you can see where the asphalt's starting to chip away a little bit, and those bricks are underneath there. And so just love how that looks, and I love that that they're preserving it too, that they've never decided to take out these bricks. And so this was a day where, all I wanted to do was go to Bartlett. But there were clouds in the sky. I had my camera. And so instead of going up here and turning right to go home to Elgin, I just thought, I'm just going to go on the other side. I'd never been on the other side of Bartlett. So I took off hoping to find some interesting things. And this was one of the first scenes I came upon.
Trish,
Just
sorry, before you go to this scene, Chris slipped in a question,
okay.
and she wanted to know was this an early Sunday morning?
This
Because
was actually a Saturday afternoon.
she was wondering where all the cars were, and it's like I want to
That's
say
It was Bartlett. Not
that's
too much going on in Bartlett. Yeah. And so that's the wonderful thing about having opportunities like that to get images, because usually, I mean, she asked if it was early morning. If you want to get an image of a small town or any place without cars and without people, you've got to get up before the sun comes up and be out there before people start stirring around. But yeah, that was probably, I bet that was 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
5 o'clock traffic.
Yeah, there was like no traffic. So anyway, so I loved this scene. This was a corn crop. This is what it looks like, after they've stripped the dried corn stalks down. And again, you can just see that black dirt, the black on the prairie. And then people who have gone out shooting with me know that I love cows. I'm going to stop for cows. Cows will turn around and look at you for as long as you stand in front of them. And it was like these guys were posing for me. And so this was really fun. And I just love the colors that are in the scene. I think the feeder with that green patina on it just kind of makes this what would have been otherwise pretty boring scene. And then another thing that I enjoy shooting, I don't know why, but I am drawn to abandoned houses, and there are a lot of them out here. And I'm sure any of y'all who have gone down in the back road see scenes like this. This house, I shot it several times, and it's pretty much in the same condition that it was 5 or 6 years ago when I first found it, which is amazing to me because it's probably 100 years old, like anything else that's out here, and it's still standing up pretty well. You can kind of see that prairie snow dotted throughout the scene, and again, just the dried up prairie grass. I just thought was so pretty in the light that I was shooting in. When I look at houses like this, I always wonder, why is it still here? Why has whoever owns the property just left it here? That most people would tear something like this down because it's not being used at all. But I'd like to think that it's because whoever owns the land, maybe this was grandma's house, or maybe this was the house they grew up in. And so sometimes I'll just make up little stories in my head, trying to imagine what life was like living on this piece of land, which was back then probably in the middle of nowhere, in this cute little house. And then this is just some fun stuff that you see once in a while. This is outside of Copeland, and I've gone by this barn so many times. And this wasn't just a Halloween decoration. This guy is a permanent resident of this barn. He's been standing in there for the 7 years I've been out here. And so I just kind of love the humor of this. And it's a pretty cute little barn too. So back to New Sweden. One of the things I love the most about the New Sweden area is the farmland and just how beautiful everything looks when the crops are growing. And like I said earlier, there's usually corn or cotton. This year, I think this was 2020. This cotton, when I came out here and saw how the rows were lining up, good leading lines leading up into this scene with the church in the background. I think I came out here every other day for a couple of weeks straight, taking different images. So I have all kinds of different times of day, clouds in the background, no clouds. This is actually my favorite one because it's just so simple. I think that golden glow in the sky was just so beautiful. And so this summer, I decided that I wanted to try to get an image of the New Sweden church with a big sea of white cotton behind it and some puffy clouds in front of it. And so I went up there with, I think, first part of July to see if there was cotton planted behind it, and there was. And so I decided to make a little project for myself and watch the different stages of that cotton crop growing. And so this is, and some of y'all may have seen me, this was all kind of new to me because all I'd ever seen or been interested in was cotton once it's ready for picking. You just see that blanket of white for miles sometimes. But this is a blossom. So this is the beginning of the cotton boll. And then I went back up about 3 weeks later and saw that this is the next stage, that the boll actually forms beneath that blossom. And you can see that this blossom is dried up and it's going to drop off. And so this is the beginning of the boll. And so then I got this image, and I had never seen a boll before it was popped cotton. And it looks like a piece of fruit almost. I loved the colors at the top of it, and the kind of reddish burgundy colors of that leaf that was over this. And so I just really found this very interesting. So then about a couple of weeks later, I went up and the bolls were starting to pop. And I saw that this was very close to the road where I pulled up, and for whatever reason, this road didn't make it, this section of this road. And what drew me into this image was the cracks in the soil. And because this was like middle of August, I guess, and so we hadn't had rain in a good 2 months by then. And so it's interesting to me to see what the drought was doing to the land. But the other thing that stood out to me is that look how lush and green the cotton plants are, and they hadn't had any rain, and so it's a very drought resistant plant, and just so interesting to me that it could survive in that kind of heat and drought and still be producing the cotton. It was a low yield this year because of the heat, but I just thought this was a really neat scene, and again, just that black dirt, and it just was telling the tale of the drought. And so then I took this image, and this was just right where I was standing. I just pointed my camera down and just saw all these interesting lines in the cracks, and it just kind of reminded me of the mud tiles that you see in pictures from Death Valley National Park. And just how deep these cracks were. And then all these little white squiggles are cotton plants that didn't make it. And then the little red and brown things here are the blossoms that had fallen off the adjacent plants. So I just found this really interesting. And to me, it tells the tale of the drought that we had this year. So then about the first week of September, I went back up to see if I could get my shot that I had in my head that I wanted to get of the church. And so the cotton was ready for picking. The plants had started drying up, and even in this state, I think they're just beautiful. The color. The amber color of the dried up leaves against the cotton It's just so pretty. And so this was the scene that was behind the church, but this was off to the west. With sunset had started, and there was a storm, I think, trying to come in. But I wanted to be back here, shooting across this with the church in the background. But there was no sky in front of the church, and there was nothing in the sky. And there were lots of bare spots from that direction, the cotton. And so it just wasn't the scene I had in my head. And so I drove up here to go ahead and get the sunset. And so I was standing right behind the church. There's a road that runs right behind the church. And I turned around, and then I saw this. And there were these two little puffy clouds that had appeared. But from where I was standing right here. From where I was, the clouds were like over here. And so I started to just go on home because I just didn't think I was going to be able to make a shot. But I decided to go ahead and drive all the way around the field again. And I parked over here. There's a road right here. Whoops. Whoops. You want to do that with this one. But from that vantage point, the clouds were in a pretty good spot. And so it's not the image I had in my head, but I'll take it. It had rows, that defined rows, where I didn't have that on the other side where I wanted to take it. And I was pretty happy with it. So this is a quote. I love Robert Frost, and so every once in a while I pick up my book and thumb through it. And so this one jumped out at me. Nothing gold can stay. Nothing stays the same, and that's how it was meant to be. And so that really is where I'm at out here, because the landscape's changing out here. We've got industry moving in. I was out trying to get a shot of this big cornfield, and I climbed in the back of my truck so I could get a higher vantage point. I was trying to get where you could see the depth of this field. And so when I got up there, I see this. And that's the Samsung's building going up. And it really hit me that, wow, this is really happening out here. And how things are going to change and how things are going to look different out here. I went out to the road and I got this image. So this is on the main road leading into Samsung. And I can't help but wonder if this cornfield, if the landowner has dug in his heels and is going to keep it and keep growing corn there, or if that's going to be a parking lot one day. I mean, that remains to be seen, I guess. But this is what's happening in the rural areas, at least out here. And there's roads being parked through. And so it really is changing very quickly. This mailbox, I put this in here because this was on a little two-lane country road that now is the road that leads into Samsung from 79. And I had taken, this was 2021 when I took this, and then I had taken images of it in the past, like in the summer when there were crops out in that field. I didn't know at the time that one of my dear friends had moved. I knew she had moved to Taylor, but I didn't know she had moved there. And so this was actually her mailbox. And so they had the misfortune of, they had bought 45 acres out there. And it turned out that Samsung was right there next to their property. And so this mailbox actually was a casualty of the construction of the 4-lane road. A construction truck knocked it over one day and just demolished it. And but they ended up, they were digging in their heels. They weren't going to sell, but it just got to be too much for them. But they did sell their land. And so I'm glad I had this picture of her mailbox to give to her. And that's the thing about some of these images, is that I'm realizing, and it's just been in the past year when things have been disappearing a little bit, is that you don't know which image is going to be the last image that you can take of a certain place, that it's going to go, it may go away, it may stay there another 100 years in some of these cases, but a lot of it's going away. This is a barn that was outside of Granger, and I first found this back in 2018. Love it because you don't see many barns like this in this part of Texas anyway. And I love that they had the American flag painted on the side of it, and just the scene that it sat in. It's not here anymore, and I don't know what happened to it. It may have been destroyed by a storm. I'm not sure if there's houses on it, because when I last went back to look for it, I realized it wasn't there, but then I couldn't really figure out where it was. And so there are a few houses that have popped up outside of Wahlberg, and so it may have been for some new homes. I don't know, but I really miss this barn because it's really so pretty. And then this is one that's actually around the corner from my subdivision. This, for the 7 years I've been here, has been completely covered up with brush. And so finally this year, they had cleared the brush enough that I could go run up and get a picture of it. And I thought it was a really nice little barn. Well, it's not going to be here much longer, because this parcel of land is going to be a truck stop soon. And then this is one that just recently I found out. This is the homestead house at Berry Springs Park in Georgetown. And a friend posted some pictures that he took, and then gave information that the homestead is going to be removed from the park. And I don't know the reason for that. I think it's kind of sad. But I went ahead and ran out and got some pictures of it, because I just had some old ones from many years ago. And so this was one of my favorite spots, again, outside of Wahlberg. And I refer to this as Little House on the Blackland Prairie. And I've always loved going out and just seeing what it looked like, with crops, without crops. I think I have it in snow. Yeah, there it is. And so this is no longer here either, but to end things on a more positive note, this actually wasn't torn down. It was dismantled board by board, and is going to go live a life on somebody else's property. And so I'm going to miss having it out there, but I'm happy to know that it's going to have a life somewhere else. And this is an image of First Presbyterian Church in Bartlett. And I found this, I don't know, years ago when I was going through Bartlett. And so every time I go through, I'd kind of swing by to see if it was still standing, if it had deteriorated anymore. But happy to find out that the last time I went, just a couple of months ago, it now looks like this. And so the story about that is that a couple it was a church, and they bought it and they've renovated it to be a home. And also they're going to let folks use it as a wedding venue and for parties. And so they really did such a beautiful job of restoring it to what it looked like on the outside. I haven't seen the finished inside. If any of y'all follow Andy Sharp on Instagram or on Facebook, Andy actually photographed the whole progression of the renovation of this church. And so it's pretty interesting to see what the people did, because this couple pretty much did all the work themselves. And they've named it Heavenly Haven, which I think is so appropriate. And so it is just nice to see that some things that are changing are they're improvements. They're changing for the better. And so these places can go on and be enjoyed. And so I'll end with this. This is the cotton tree in Granger. The man that owns this property, he actually himself covers this big wire frame with cotton. And it's just really so beautiful, especially in the setting with all these old buildings. I met him earlier in the year when I was out there taking some pictures, and had a really nice conversation with him. And I showed him this image and asked him if he'd like a copy of it. And so I actually took it to him last weekend, and he told me that he's going to, after the first of the year, that he's going to start renovating the interior of the building here. And down the road, I don't know how long it's going to take him, but he hopes to have a barbecue restaurant in there and a music venue. And I asked him if I could photograph it while he was doing it, and he said yes. And so I'm really excited to get to be a part of watching what's going to happen to this building and the new life that's going to be breathed into it. So that's all.
That's all. That's just like my little itty bitty presentation, which was absolutely fantastic, Trish. I'm so pleased. I'm so proud of you. This is wonderful. Okay, take your screen down. I have one question. If anybody else has any questions, this is a good time to throw them in the chat. Clarification. I think I know the answer, but let's hear from you. Are you behind fences and
Oh yes, and that's something I did want to talk about, is that I am very respectful of folks' private property. And so yeah, that's something that when you go out, you really need to stay behind a fence. I don't cross a fence. Years ago, when I go out and shoot with people, there were a few times that, they crossed the fence and they said it's okay, and I did go with them, but I've grown since then, and I just don't do it. I also know the rule about if a fence post is painted purple, that's a keep out private property sign. So if you see purple fence posts, stay behind it.
I grew up with those same rules, so completely understand and respect those. I don't see any other questions in here. There are some really nice comments. If this presentation does not get Christy from New Jersey and Valerie Hoffman
to come down and roam around.
I don't know what else we can do. We have begged, we have pleaded, but this is right up their alley.
And I do hope that, because y'all, I just do this for fun, really. I'm always humbled by getting nice comments, or for someone asking me if they can have a print, because I'm not in business to do this. I just really love going around, and I didn't expect to love Elgin, being out here. I moved to Elgin just to get away from Austin, and I'm in love with the area. It's just it's changed my life. It's given me things to do, and it's the best way to decompress from a rough day. And so yeah, it's just been a wonderful experience. And so I hope that my photography would inspire people to go take a Sunday drive. If you haven't been down, if you haven't gotten off the main road that goes to and from your subdivision or your house, or wherever you live, go down a country road, and then go down another country road, because there's some just beautiful and interesting things out there, and interesting people. Strike up conversations with folks. they love to talk.
And you do too, my friend. You do too. Trish, this is wonderful. Your photos are beautiful. I feel like I cheated because I've seen so many of them, and I've had the privilege of getting to be a part of your most recent exhibition where you got to share some of these photos, and it's just cool to see them come to life with your words. So thank you for coming and
Thank
sharing
you for having me.
sharing your project, and I know you love it. And um, the snowy day in 2020, was it 2020 or 2020?
January 10th, 2021.
Yeah. So she's in her pajamas. She's going this way. I'm coming this way. And we stayed we stayed on the phone and talked about things that we were passing and what we saw. And
We
um,
ended up taking pictures of the
yeah,
same things in the end. It was interesting. I don't know how we didn't pass each other on the
I
way.
don't know either. Yeah. But that was a fun day. And I remember being on the phone with you different times and checking in and, what do you see? We shouldn't be out here. But it was probably one of my favorite days of
It was so
having
awesome.
a full tank of gas and a camera with extra batteries. I stayed out all day and I'm pretty sure you did too.
I did.
It was fun to see some of those photos pop up in your presentation. Thanks again. All right, ladies, our next meeting, can you believe it? It's going to be on Thursday, January 4th, 2024. And I've asked Jennifer Lee Warner to come and share her presentation, Top 10 Tips for Photographing Wildlife. So until next time, I hope that you have a safe and joyous holiday and that you find some time to get out and play with your cameras, and we'll see you in January.